Hi, I'm Patrice Rushen, and this is 5 Questions with She Knows Tech. I'm a pianist, composer, songwriter, music director, music educator, and friend of tech. I think I was inspired to get into music from a very, very early age because I just like the sound. I like moving around to music. It allowed for me to come out of my shell. Whenever I would hear music, moving to the music, singing and dancing, that's when I would come out of my shell. And it really was my parents that acted on that by putting me first. I was in a nursery school program where the teacher there happened to be musical. And she noticed that during the day, that's when I would really be most animated when we would do any kind of musical activity. She told my parents about a program that was available for small children, the early music education program at the University of Southern California. And they were observing small children to determine, did we all hear the same things? How did we react to the same things? To give us a certain vocabulary to relate to music so that they could study us. I was in that program for 2 years and then started playing piano when I was 5. And I don't know anything else that I have ever gravitated towards with more energy than music. That is my focus, that is the lens that I see the world from. It's hard for me to say who my greatest role models are, and I say plural role models because I've done a lot of different things as part of my world of music making. I would say the most important thing that I learned, though, from everybody that I've ever worked with, worked for, or listened to, was that music was not the only thing that they did. In other words, their inspiration musically was inspired by other forms of art. Most artists are capable of kind of finding the art in everything. And it's because if it's really fine, if it's really excellent, if it's well presented, if it's well done, if it's well thought out, it resonates with a certain truth. And that's one of the important lessons no matter what we're doing. So for me, all the people that I love, songwriters, producers, fellow artists, it's because of that. One that I can think of right now was when I wanted to do film scoring. And after many years of being a recording artist and having records and things like this, life takes its changes and you can begin to focus a little bit more on certain things that maybe hadn't been available to you prior. So I had an opportunity and I went in for an interview, and I remember the look on the director and the committee of folks, their face, because my name doesn't necessarily give away that I'm female. So, and in the film industry, especially back then, they only focused on the film industry. It's like nobody ever listened to the radio or heard music or made any connection with the other commercial art forms, maybe. So they just didn't know me. And I walked in and the look, and then they see my resume and they see my name in there. I walk in, they look at me and look, what? They couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that I'm there to be interviewed to score a film. That I was not there to sing a song, and I was not there on the basis of anything other than being a composer who wanted an opportunity to be interviewed to be able to do this film. And it was at that moment, in watching the look on their faces, that I realized, wow, this doesn't happen very often. And I'm like the triple threat. I'm female, short, and black. We got everything going here. So it taught me how important it is that my own perception of myself walking through those doors would be very, very key. I might not walk out of there with a job, but what I would walk out of there was the potential of having gotten people to maybe examine something that they hadn't thought about before. And I wouldn't call that a negative necessarily. I would call that a positive, but maybe not in a direction that it would have influenced maybe what would happen to me. The negative thing that I think that I experienced, again, later, as a professional, was the kind of projects that I would get and the kind of money that was attached to those projects And I really had many times had to go over and beyond the call of duty in order for me to feel confident that, well, you may not call me again, but you'll wish you had. Because I wanted to always make sure that my being there, made a difference. I would want to do that anyway. It wasn't because of the female thing as much as it was out of the wanting to be able to do a stellar job. And I did that a lot. And then when I would open the door, perhaps for my male counterparts to be able to maybe step into roles that were very similar, they were paid more. I think there's already been a big shift in females understanding their role, and their power doesn't limit their roles anymore. I think we're done with the idea of what a woman is capable or incapable of doing. I came up after, I guess, the big feminist revolution in terms of people understanding that there was a group of people who weren't going to stand for that kind of limitation. Now that group of people is all women who are stepping up because they know that, well, we're still at that place where we have to. I look forward to the day when we don't even have to have these kinds of conversations anymore. But we're still at a point, while there's been a lot of improvements, that we've got a ways to go so that those improvements stick. And I think that every generation has gotten better at understanding that, yeah, we deserve opportunities. And yeah, a part of getting those opportunities means we have to be as good or better in most cases. And yeah, we're going to run up against the occasional situation where we're dealing with our male counterparts who are still not as enlightened and really don't know. But what the biggest difference is the way that we carry ourselves. And I think that the other part of that change and that confidence and that allowing ourselves to be able to talk to each other and understand what we are dealing with and what is part of what our realities are, and facing those realities, is to be able to get on with that responsibility to ourselves, for ourselves, knowing that it doesn't change unless we do. So I'm really happy to see people stepping up, being courageous enough to step up in all areas, and we're all finding out that there's a sisterhood out there that really does support being correct. What the men can do in realizing now that we're not going back. We are here to stay. We've been here. We're here to stay. We want to be able to participate, and we will participate. What they can do is understand that change takes time. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Men who are conscious are going to have to look around the room, and when they do not see a situation where a female presence should and could be there, they got to speak up and say that. We don't have any women in the room. We don't have somebody else here. We don't have that point of view here to determine what we're going to do or how we're going to collaborate, or if there's a way for us to be able to think about this. We need to make sure that women are there. I hope we get to the point where that does not have to be the case. But when you're trying to do something different, when that difference is not necessarily habit, then you have to remind yourself to do it. Men who are out there, keep an eye out, pay attention. If you see an opportunity or you see a situation that's lacking in that area, say something. And then if you see that there is some kind of inappropriate action or inappropriate verbiage that happens that creates a certain kind of atmosphere or the potential for it, it's a workplace. I'm not telling people don't say what they want to say, but just like everyone is required to have a certain comportment in a professional atmosphere in a workplace, that should hold true no matter what.
Do you have a celebrity crush?
Yes.
Who?
Prince.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Favorite airport?
LAX.
Least favorite?
Chicago.
Spicy or non-spicy?
Spicy.